you. Okay. Swearing in. Okay. This evening, I'm sure that there's going to be, probably have more people in our audience than we normally do. But I'm sure there's going to be more than a handful of people talking tonight. If you think you're going to be speaking, please raise your hand and repeat after me that I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right, great. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Brad.
Okay, I'm going to do a little housekeeping before we get rolling here. I'm going to do give a little introduction on how the Board of Zoning Appeals works and some of the processes that we're going to be going through this evening. This is a variance request that we're going to be hearing, so that'll be embedded into what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to give a brief overview on the functions of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body, and as such, it is similar in role to a judge in a court case. The board will hear evidence and testimony that is factual and will make a decision based on the facts presented and the rules set forth in the resolution and the principles of law. Ohio Revised Code Section 5/1913 requires that any township that has adopted a zoning resolution, like Auburn Township, to appoint a 5-member Board of Zoning Appeals along with 2 alternates. This board is empowered to hear and decide appeals and to authorize variances from the strict terms of the zoning resolution where the variances will not be contrary to the public interest where, due to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship. The Board of Zoning Appeals also is permitted to authorize variances where the spirit and intent of the zoning is upheld and substantial justice will be done. The Board of Zoning Appeals is empowered to grant conditional uses also. With this being stated, the board's proceedings are relatively informal, but in order to conduct an orderly meeting and allow all parties of interest, and that parties of interest would be the contiguous property owners plus the applicants, the opportunity to present their evidence necessary to assist in make the board's decisions. Certain procedures need to be followed. All interested parties will be sworn in. The applicant will be asked to present his or her evidence to support the requested appeal. The board will ask questions, and then all interested parties, being the contiguous property owners included, may present evidence concerning the appeal and ask questions regarding previously presented evidence. It is the applicant's burden to produce evidence to support the application. The board will not make the applicant's case for them. In order to prepare appropriate meeting minutes, each person who speaks, and this is important, you must state your name and your address so Jane can keep records of it in our meeting minutes. The meeting may be concluded by either the applicant or the board. The board must base their decisions on the facts and not on expressions of concerns or non-factual matters. The actions of the board does not become final until 30 days after the date of this meeting or of the meeting that the meeting minutes are approved. We have to approve meeting minutes within 30 days of tonight, okay? As long as we hear, we take a vote. Any appeals from the final decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals will be made to the Geauga County's Common Pleas Court by any party of interest. That would include contiguous property owners, but they must be present at this meeting. Okay, so we got some of the formalities out of the way here. First item here, I want to talk a little bit about, I know that we're going to be hearing one case, and this has to do with the Silvernail property. And I know there are 2 trustees that are listed on the applicants. And in order to move forward with our meeting, we must have an understanding that all members of the Silvernail family have signed an affidavit, and it gives you, the 2 trustees, authority to speak on their behalf. Can you present that to the board?
Yes, Annette Brooks, 17298 Valley Road,
Okay.
Auburn Township.
Okay, so we have the 2, okay, that, and then we have 4 other family members. So there's a total of 6 Silvernails
Yes, that is
involved in this, okay? Like a little family reunion tonight.
So that's the one.
Okay, and another little other housekeeping measure here, that the records that Jane is keeping tonight that are going to become our meeting minutes, those are the official record for the meeting. Now, nothing anybody else can take recordings or do whatever you want, take your notes, but this is the official document, okay?
Excuse me, Brian, is that published online somewhere?
It will be after 30 days, once we,
After 30 days.
If we hear and we vote on something tonight, we will make sure that if we vote on and approve of meeting minutes, they will become official public property.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, with that said, that kind of takes care of some of the formalities here. We have one case, we have no old business. We do have one case tonight. This is BZA 1804B. This is a variance. An appeal requesting a variance submitted by Diane Florence Silvernail, Paula Randville, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Robert Silvernail for the Silvernail Family Trust from the Auburn Township Board of Zoning Resolution. Article 4.03K, minimum lot width. 175 feet is required. 75 feet is proposed at property located at 17254 Valley Road, Auburn Township, 44023, in an R2 zoning district. Excuse me, could you please sign in? Great.
There's
Okay,
two chairs
that
in there.
said, everybody on board received their packet, correct, from Jane, taking a good hard look at it. Oh, and let me say this, that, I went through, looked at our zoning resolution and the article that it comes from. This is a one-family dwelling, R2, 175 feet minimum lot width requirement. Okay, so this is I would consider it a fairly substantial zoning variance request. So we're not going to make your case for you. You're going to have to present it to us. So one of the two trustees of the family trust, please come forward and tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
We decided that I'm going to present it.
Sure.
Okay. Or just stand here, is that fine?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
You can
It's
sit there.
rather informal.
Yeah.
Pardon? Just your record. Oh, I already gave her okay. The reason we're requesting the variance is according to my mother's trust, who of course has passed away almost 3 years ago. She wanted in the trust my two brothers, Robert and Elton, to have the barn, the buildings for the farm, and a portion of the property that was up front. The only issue with that was there was no road frontage. So that is what they want to keep. Mm-hmm. So what we need to do is to have access to the rest of the property. So the problem with the barn and the building, they sit almost right on the road. All the frontage is almost, we are on the road, we have enough frontage, but the property pie shapes. So I think we're about 50 feet short of what we need, we're at pie shapes. So the best resolution, we've gone over different things the township did, say we couldn't have it one way. So we went back, looked it over, and decided that the best thing to do was give my brothers the majority of the frontage, so they could keep the buildings and the barn and access the acreage, which is right behind it. So in order for that, so that was all done, so we decided to make a 75-foot road right away in order to access all the property behind. And it's pure and simple, we were just trying to follow the wishes of my mother and her trust, and give my brothers what she had wanted to give them, and the rest of the property will be up for sale, or whatever we decide. At this point, we are looking at trying to keep it in the family because it's family property that's been in the family for years. The barn was built in 1901 by my grandfather. So that's important. They keep that, and a couple of my children were thinking about maybe doing a land contract until what time we can, they can secure a mortgage in order for them to buy the property outright. And that is what our intention is for that.
Well, I've got a question for you is,
Sure.
I know there's 6 family siblings, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. What was your mother's desire on how it would be divided, or didn't she really say?
Mom, 88, when she passed away,
Uh-huh.
zoning, frontage,
Well, I mean, did she want everybody to have a piece of the pie? Is that
Well,
what her intention was?
the biggest intention was, my dad wanted, who passed away 6 years ago, 1990, wanted the brothers to have a piece of the farm, per se. My one sister lives in Michigan, and we're, in a variety of places here. And, so my mom was actually following the wishes of my father. So, is that correct? Yes. And, so this is what she wanted, and this is what we want to follow, because that was what her wishes were.
What's, I don't want to sound redundant in my questions, but what do you, I mean, that's a beautiful, huge piece of property. There aren't many left in Auburn Township like that.
That's true.
It is. And what do you envision is going to happen with it?
Well, and envision my one son, who's interested in it, is, he farms with Elton. So, like to keep it farm property if we can. And if we can. And my other brother, my other son, Christopher, is an avid hunter. So, he would love to keep it. I mean, it's family. This is what we want to do. We want to keep it if we can and preserve it if we can.
Well, it's 75 foot is, like I said, you're asking for 75 foot variance, but in reality, I guess one of my questions is, do you really need a road that wide to go back there?
Well, we needed to access that property, and let's just, if both my sons or one of my sister's children want to build on there, it's open that they could all share in the property.
I mean, the variance only goes back about 250, 275 feet, is that correct?
Right,
Just to
because
where it opens up.
that's where it opens up.
Right.
So-
I mean, I guess my question is, you need a variance of that, do you need a roadway that wide?
I think that's.
What do you need, Frank?
60, the
60
minimum
feet.
would be 60 feet
For a dedicated road.
for a dedicated road. The issue is, if I may interject, the issue is here, as she has just now indicated, that in the future, there's the possibility of more than one dwelling. And Auburn Township zoning is very specific in stating that each dwelling has its own road frontage, so therefore the only way more than one house, or the only way any new house could be built
Put a road in.
is to put a road in. So that's why they're asking for the
It can't be a
75.
driveway. it
They
has to
may
be a
never
road.
put a road, but if it could go the other way, this as well. So
I mean,
that's the only way that.
big piece of property, I mean, it's very.
Right, it's a beautiful piece of
It's,
property.
yeah, and it's a good possibility 4 houses could end back, up
Sure.
back there one day.
Right.
And they have every right to do that.
Yeah.
Just 80.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Approximately 10 of the acreage would go. with my
Right.
brothers.
So it was your mother who had the trust drafted, right?
Yes.
Did she use an own attorney?
She used an attorney.
She used an attorney?
Yes.
Do you know who the attorney is?
Cheshki, yeah.
And how many years ago was this that the trust was built?
86, 76.
She had a will at first and then found out, and I talked to Diane Silver.
Sure.
Address.
14739 Shannon Court, Burton. I lived with my mom first. So Carol Paschke was the original, she's a judge now, she's the original drafter of that. And then she she first had a will, but then they found out that the will was not with the taxes or whatever, she wanted to change it to a trust. So then the trust, Carol Paschke wrote the trust out, and that was her, like, her living will, or trust, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And then, she did amend it, and we have another amendment in there, because I was living with her at the time.
She amended the trust.
She did.
Okay.
And the amendment was for me to live in the house with her, I was living there. But when she died, we were supposed to do it through Sarah's.
So the rest of the time.
So she had an attorney draft up the
That was
trust.
Carol Paschke.
Who is the administrator of the trust? It's gonna be somebody that oversees the trust.
The
I
two,
would presume they had Pauline.
Bobby Solino, Robert Solino, and Paul Randall.
All right.
And Paul is,
So you guys are, so you are, both of you are the administrators of the trust.
Right.
Pauline, you?
All around, she's in
Michigan.
Michigan.
Okay. How many people are mentioned in the trust? That's having an interest. How many are here? So she's the only one who's not here who has an interest in the trust, and she's also co-administrator.
Yes.
yes,
Has she agreed to what you want to do?
yes.
They gave
So
us
she's
that.
got to, we gotta sign the
Very difficult because a trust is involved here. A living document is what it is. It's not, and it continues to control the family's interest here. She wanted to make sure, that's why she set it up, that this, do you know, did she say, this is hard because there's no evidence here. Was there any evidence, any statement by her that said, hey, this is why I'm doing this?
No, this is, she did state that.
She makes it very difficult by
I
putting this into a
really realize
trust.
this is why
You
we're
don't know
almost
my
three.
mother.
And that's why I would ask a lawyer, that's why I would ask
Yeah.
the judge, or the lawyer who set this up and say,
This is our question to the lawyer, how did you set something up
okay.
like this up?
And but I just, it's just very difficult because
Yes.
when we're asking, and I know that some people might think, this has got nothing to do with giving the
It's okay.
variance or one way or the other. But you'd hate to give a variance of something, and then there's something that's a living document that somebody comes in and says, oh no, I would never have agreed to that. And that's the issue here. But
Well, in the trust, it was to give a portion of the property, including the farm, equipment, machinery, and the buildings to my brothers, plus that 8.4 acres, which is now going to include the frontage. And the remaining property must be sold and divided, the monetary amount.
so I would presume that the trust has been filed and is with the probate court.
Yes, it is.
The property currently is in the trust name.
It's in the trust.
Right, but it would have to go through probate.
And it, excuse me, but it says in the trust that the property has to be sold?
That is correct.
As long as I was living in, my mother gave me.
No, it's sold, you moved out, so it has to be
Yeah,
sold.
but yes, I agree with you.
Right.
But it said while I was living there, I had the option to live there for 5 years.
So LT and your brother get this farm,
Yes,
they get that,
yes,
but the rest of it has to be sold.
that's what it
Correct.
said. It said as long as if I choose to leave, it said in there, when I left, I moved to Burton, the property must be sold. That's what it said in the trust.
That's a bit convoluted.
We
A
know.
little bit.
We know.
It would have been,
You have to have a road there.
Yeah, you
You have to have a road, or you can't build anything
Right,
there.
exactly, that's the major
It should
issue.
leave them in the middle of the field.
Right.
And like
Not-
Carol
I mean,
Paschke
not
did.
thinking, right, and I don't know where, she was not thinking that, they gotta have some kind of frontage. There's no.
right,
no
right, sorry, I
frontage.
agree.
Alright,
One,
that-
number two, if this is granted this way, probate comes back, they would need to come back for a different variance.
Okay.
Chief, have you been out there?
Probate does not rule.
I'm familiar with the property, yes.
Are you familiar with where the dirt driveway is right now?
Yeah.
Are you concerned about the depression that it's actually built
A
in?
little concerned about the line of sight with the driveway. Of course, the driveway's been there for about forever.
Correct, yes.
I'll have to admit, I don't believe there's been many accidents down there. It is a line of sight problem, though. My concern is being a 75-foot easement, what happens down the road, and having that accessibility right on that back curb. That's where our concern is.
know we have some anxious property owners that would like to say a word or two. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak? Just raise your hand and. Sir?
Hi,
your
my
name?
name's Jerome Dahl. I live at 17282 Valley Road. So I'm I'm the middle house of the three that are right on the water.
So you're on the east side of the road?
Yeah, next door to Benoit.
Okay, all right, sure.
In between the Benoist and the Levinsons. So, my question to you on that is there, have you somehow mapped out, like, or you have a graphic of what you're intending to do? 'Cause
Sure.
I haven't seen anything
I'll
like
give you
that.
one.
They did provide the BZA fleet maps and everything with their intentions.
Thank you. So your intention is also to have, the brothers are gonna farm or keep that, like, in the
Yes.
property that adjoins my house?
Yes.
Same thing.
You will see the cows every day.
And have you made a plan to divide up that property for them and put different fences in or lines or?
I would imagine that would be open to them, but that piece of property there they're gonna remain farming it.
The whole property that has, that's clear cut, is that 40 acres? Or how much property are we talking about?
Well, after it, they're gonna have 10 acres-ish, a little more maybe, I don't know, I'm not positive, the way it'll lay out, but there'll probably be a remainder of 72 acres.
So there's this is the whole property, so there's nothing behind your property, behind the house?
Yeah, you know where I am, behind
Yeah.
them, that goes back there in that open field all the way over to the other fields that are behind Squires.
Is that a different property?
It's all there.
It's all on here?
You'll see where we are, and then they go, you know, show back.
The 10 acres is right there in front of the He's right.
Here, and there's one, I think it's that. Yeah, because you see where we are, and then Squire, Mary Ann Squires, and then yourself,
Okay, it goes up.
Wayne, and then Maryland's property, and
This is it, right? It goes all the way back there. Yeah, it goes right up
that's
to
you guys.
the driveway.
Jay's right here. He's right. Go to the O'Hare man survey. This is the 10 acres, right? It's the 10 acre plot.
That's the 75 foot shed.
Because according to the drawings that I'm reading here,
Yeah.
this is the back and then the 10
Farmers right
acres, and
where
it's just
75 foot is between
the front of the
Levinson
house.
and,
Look, if you were to draw a line from the front of the house.
the gray property, it's
Here's
Here's the
narrow.
rest of it.
Right.
So
Where are you
it's,
talking?
see like
What
where
you're
you're
seeing,
on,
that right there
right here.
is this.
Is that Levinson's right there?
This is all the other land.
Levinson's right here.
Okay, right there, and two, right over to the corners of Grace. It's pie shapes, so there's not enough property there for 275 foot
That's what they want to access.
partials, and that's the township requirement.
Because they have the road.
I believe it's
You're
50.
saying highway, but I don't see anything.
Well, there's the road to road, it kind of narrows here. By measurement, it's almost,
You're there, right there.
Here, we already had.
Oh, okay.
so that, this well meets 175 partials, but here, it's like 50 feet short. And so the township won't, won't allow it because there has to be 275.
Oh, yeah, no, it's.
So your driveway would be a road?
Which one?
Correct.
Or you get put in another road right through the middle of that outfield?
Well, there's already an established road, the barn is, that's an established road, so that they don't need to put that road
The
through
driveway.
the driveway.
Here's the old barn, here's the whole
So,
barn.
this part is where,
There is a,
where
yeah,
we're,
but it's.
this is where the problem is, or the best way we can resolve it with the township. So, and it's just that area right there.
It's on the east side, which are.
Can I keep that, or is that yours? You need more copies?
We're just trying to
No,
approve.
that's yours. Here's this one. Sorry. You want me to eat that one?
Right here.
I got a paper on the bottom. One of them is my road.
This one.
So it's not, but so the road's gonna go.
is, okay? But once it gets to here, I don't care, because you only need 200 feet, right?
They've already met the criteria.
Okay. I'm sorry, we got a little regress there, go ahead.
That's all right.
Hi,
Your name,
I'm
please?
Teresa Daniela Gray. I live at 17200 Valley Road. My property is directly adjacent to where the road would be. And I have
Which way, to the north? Which-
To the west. My
the
property would be
No.
next to the road, I'm sorry, to the north, yes.
Okay, so your driveway kind of forks off from where they two come in.
Where the two come in, my driveway is the one right next to theirs.
Okay.
And I have a lot of issues with what's happening today. I want first I'm going to say some of the issues, and then I want to bring it back to the administrative.
Well, sure, but keep in mind that we're not talking about the trust or anything, we're talking strictly about the variance here, okay?
Well, I'm going to talk about everything that was talked about, because I'm allowed to answer, and I believe according to the rules, I'm also allowed to ask questions of the people,
You can ask questions of the board.
of us. Okay, well, according to what I read, that I was allowed to cross-examine them, and I can read that to you from the thing. So I just have a couple concerns. I'll start with those.
Go ahead, please.
First off, variances are not granted based upon estates. I was told this by a zoning.
They're not based on what?
Estates, trusts, that variances are for variances, they're not to settle trusts and estates. That's not other homeowners' problems, and I think that there's a lot of alternatives that could happen besides granting this variance, which I'll get into with you guys in just a minute. First off,
We're full aware of that, ma'am.
okay, I just
We're
want to make
full
sure,
aware that we're not-
was this trust actually filed with probate? Because I went to the State House or the records and I didn't see it there, so I'm curious myself to what the trust
Right,
is.
right now, the property is in the trust's name, okay?
But if the trust doesn't say they have to sell the property, we have an issue. So they're discussing it today, so we are allowed to cross-examine it according to the rules that I have printed out.
What's your question, I guess?
Well, I don't have any questions, I'm testifying. So we'll start with property values. I'm concerned about property values.
Okay,
Secondly, I'm concerned that I have emails for 2 years going back about subdivisions. We're looking at, of course, the viability of the road. That was something that Geauga County has a problem with. We're looking at the cost to the township, because even to put a development back there would cost a lot of money in maintenance to the roads that would be there. So that's a cost to the
there
township.
would also be an offset in taxes too, ma'am.
Well, that's important. That's important.
That's what pays for those
In
services.
addition, well, I'm going to go through first off, I have a problem with something that was said, that it's every right to put 4 houses back there. It is if a variance is given, and according to what Frank just said, the way that this property is set, the variance has to be given in order for them to have the right to put 4 houses back there. I purchased that house knowing what was going on, but never understanding that there could potentially be a road right there, so I did not understand that.
Ma'am, how long have you lived there?
I've lived there for 3 years, 4 years. She died a little bit after I moved in, maybe a year after I moved in. So there was no issues, there was no problems. But going through the administrative process, again, I could read to you where it says I'm allowed to cross-examine them. I have a question, and that's in how long after a variance is granted would you start the process of the road build?
What?
Would that be like a long time
I
after?
believe first of all, the property has to be subdivided before you could do anything, ma'am.
So one of the according to section 601 of the administrative, or I'm sorry, 602 of the administrative process, the zoning inspector, if the development or described use in the zoning certificate has not begun within 6 months of the date of issuance, then is to be revoked. So if they're not going to put a road in within 6 months, we're wasting our time because the variance.
Excuse me, ma'am. These people have the right to get to that property and build a road any way they can. This variance only stops them from putting it where they want to put it right now.
Correct.
If they want to buy another piece of property next to what's up to this property and put a highway in there,
Absolutely.
they can do that, and they can build as many houses as the land will support as far as the health department's concerned.
Exactly.
So, I guess.
But I've told them, yes, I've been very honest with them. I've told
So
them.
I guess, I don't think we need to talk about time limits when they have to do stuff and all this.
Well, we
first
do
off-
because we're following the rules. If it says they have to sort it within 6 months, they have to. That's what it says, right? And Frank, am I wrong in that for reading?
I'm not giving them a permit. A variance is something that the board grants. They would still, when they go to build a house, then they come and get a permit. There's no permit for a variance. A variance is
It's a request.
a request that either the board grants or denies, there's no permit involved. The only permit would be if someone down the road came in and said, I want to build a house on this property. Boom, I have to say, no, you can't, because you don't have road frontage. Then the process starts. Oh, well, to do that, we have to build a road. Well, that's the first step would have to be. But there's no permit going with a variance.
But the
So
problem is if a variance is granted, that would reduce the price of my home. If all of a sudden the road could be put within how many feet of my home in that in that area, in a subdivision, so that is a problem. Also, when I'm looking at, where we're talking about the difference between an area variance versus a use variance, and please, I'm sorry that I am not 100% up to date on this. I'm learning, because I got this information on Thursday. Today's Tuesday, so, a couple days of due diligence is what got me to where I'm at right now. Okay. So I'm learning about the area versus use. I do understand and recognize in the application, they didn't even bother filling out use. They only filled out area. If you look at the application, you'll see that. But according to what this says here is that this appeals board decides whether it's an area variance or a use variance. It's not the applicant. So I believe all that information needed to be filled out. And the reason I'm saying this, I'll start with the area variance, which is the standards, which number 3 is whether the essential character of the neighborhood was substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. And my property is that property, and it would. It would. And also, if you put development back there, it's absolutely going to change that whole area. Number 4 is whether the property owner purchased the property with the knowledge of zoning restriction. I'll get into that in just a minute. I think that's something that needs to be addressed in a different way. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obtained through another method other than a variance. Absolutely. Even though, and again, I don't know legal trust, that's not my specialty, but is there any room within that trust? Can there be something that the family, it stays in a trust? There has to be some sort of a way other than a variance that's going to reduce my price. And again, Elton knows I want to get along, Bobby knows I'm trying to figure out and work with everybody to figure out how we can do this so my property value doesn't drop. It even went to the point of
I think you're making an assumption that you have no evidence or any kind of facts that would point that your property values would drop. Quite frankly, if there was a road there, and there's a lot of people that don't want to live on a country driveway. They want a paved road that they can turn right into their garage. So I think you're jumping the gun a little bit whether it's really going to deter to your property values. I understand your concern, don't get me wrong.
Well, again, I'm really
You didn't move out here to have that road. I
No.
understand that.
But again, I'm looking at the predicament, can they feasibly do this another way?
Certainly they can.
You can do it another way.
There's-
You don't have to do it this way, you don't have to
ways to do it.
impede on what I purchased and then you're looking at use. And again, I don't know use, but there's a lot about hardship in there. And I believe that this would cause me some hardship if this happens. And not just me, but I believe the entire area, including all those people that fish out front. Can you imagine fishing out front, you're on the road and.
Could you, pardon me for a second, Jane, could you explain
Okay,
the difference here between?
The reason that the appellant did not fill out the section on a use variance, when the application is passed on to the secretary from the zoning inspector, we determine is it an area variance or a use variance. So there's no point in the applicant filling out for a use variance when in fact they're going strictly for an area variance. An area variance involves setbacks, road frontage, anything that involves something you measure. A use variance would be, we don't permit funeral homes in the township. Francis wants to build a funeral home in a business district. He would come in and apply for a use variance. He would not fill out the area variance section on the application. We don't have two separate applications for use and area. We just determine at the point they're submitting what they need to fill out. So that
And just
discrepancy
very good
falls
explanation.
on our department, not on the applicants.
So I'm going to raise my hand and say on page 11, the exact words is the written justification for the variance shall be made by the appellant and the Board of Zoning Appeals shall determine the proposed variance involved an area variance or a use variance. So So what I read, it says the Board of Zoning Appeals should make that decision. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult anybody, but that's just what it says here. And I'm just, again, 4 days, all right? And it's been hard for me here. But again, the hardship stuff, I can absolutely touch base with. At the hearing, any party has the allowed to present their position, arguments, and contentions. They are to offer and examine witnesses and present evidence in the support thereof, to cross-examine witnesses purporting to refute this position, arguments and contentions, to offer evidence to refute evidence and testimony offered in opposition to this position, arguments and contentions, and to profiter any evidence on the record if the admissions thereof denied by the officer or body appealed for.
And I kind of spelled that out in the opening
But I
statement.
want to be, I have some
Ma'am,
questions.
Well, what are your
I-
questions then? Let's get to them.
I laid that out in the opening statement. You can ask questions, we'll free exchange of information here, okay? Yes, sir.
Is there a packet sent out to everyone? Because I didn't receive anything like that.
No, the packets are sent out to the board members, contiguous property owners are notified of the hearing, and the documents are available here at your request.
Okay.
I also would like to read the variance area, which is, I have the definition
Let's
here.
get on with it.
I went to the website and then I hung out for many
It's all,
hours up at the thing.
everything's on the township, our full resolution is available on.
I see.
Well, a lot of
Okay.
other stuff I have is actually
Yeah.
at Geauga County. But variance area means a modification from the zone's resolution requirements regarding, for example, lot area, lot width, front yard, side yard, rear yard, or percentage of lot covering as a result of practical difficulties. It is not to settle an estate. It's not, and looking at the application itself, there was a question about how else the estate could be, or how else, just ideas on other ways that they could bust this property up so they have access. The Squire's Farm is for sale, I believe. So if a group wants to come in and buy that, you can have a great big thing off of 40, not off of a.
Well, that's all, we appreciate you giving that suggestion to the Silver Nails, that's fine, but that's their business, okay? They're here asking for variance on a piece of their property that has not been subdivided yet. Let's keep that in mind here, okay? They're here before us, asking us if this is something that we would consider the board. And if we maybe deny it, hold on, I'll get with you, man. If we deny it, maybe they'll take a different route. Maybe if we grant it, then the burden's on them to go to the county, subdivide the property, and work with their probate to get that all squared around. That's out of our control, ma'am.
Well, and again, I just have one more, and then I'm gonna.
I just,
I'll
before I
give you-
forget what I'm trying to say here is though, why
Your name
is the
again,
driveway
please?
not good enough?
Your name
If it's
again,
gonna be
please?
on Christina Boyd, 11720 Washington Street.
Okay.
If the driveway isn't good enough for all family, they're gonna put 4 of their family back there, why isn't the driveway good enough then? I don't understand. There's shared driveways everywhere. You got shared driveways, they have a driveway, and why can't they get back to where their children, they
Ma'am,
say, their
ma'am,
family is gonna be making homes back there? How is it they can't share the driveway with their family?
Unless
Frank,
it's not their
explain.
family.
Because they've been emailing about how they wanna put a subdivision back there. They're not telling
Frank
the truth here.
explained to you that the frontage requirements to build a lot in Auburn require so much frontage on a road, not a driveway.
Okay, so when there is a bunch of houses back there, there will be lots of cars going down that driveway. Now, there's them and the other. But she's gonna have the car going into this house, that house,
Well, I'm
this
gonna-
house,
I'm
that
gonna
house.
go back to the
Whereas if
legal.
they go to 44, they can just come off the road and they'll have that nice concrete.
Ma'am, they have a
entrance
right
that
to put a road in there to get back to that property and do whatever they want with it.
Well, they have a right
When
for
all of the
variance.
people that live around it are saying
It doesn't
no,
matter.
they don't
I
want
mean, it
it.
doesn't matter. They have a right. They own that property. As long as they can get the proper setbacks here, if they didn't have to come before us with the variance, they can do whatever they want back there.
Well, that's not a
See
true
this in black.
statement
He
either.
needs to see this in
That's
black.
not true either. It has to go to planning, and there's a lot of things
There's
like
a
that.
lot
They
of-
just can't go put a road in. It's
But they
it's a
have
big
the right
process.
to do that. They have the right to do
But
that.
why isn't the driveway good enough if it's just?
Because they want to bust up the property, remember? They want to give Elton his property, they don't have enough frontage. I understand exactly what's going on. But I also-
Driveways are not permitted in the county.
Okay.
Again,
I have two more things I'd like to say. First off, I have let them know I have no problems with a shared driveway instead of a road variance. And I believe that if you came in and asked for a shared driveway for the house, or if you came in and said, Chris wants to build a house, I'd say, oh, good, more. And then put a house back there for him as a shared driveway. As the contingent homeowner, I would say, fine. I'd be in here saying, sure, why not? The fact that we're looking at a road is where my real concern is coming in. Okay,
Really
that's,
what they're doing is they're widening this and taking it back 250 feet. Where you get back to 250 feet, this variance ends, man.
well,
This variance ends at 250 feet.
well, but then again, you also have to get past Auburn watershed. You're gonna have to get past the EPA, because there is a big.
There's
creek
many
that runs through-
obstacles that they have to
Exactly.
deal with. There's no.
But the minute the variance is granted, my property value drops. I mean, there's no plan in the
You
future.
don't know, maybe your property would go
I
up
just
because of
don't.
this. You don't know.
Okay. I also have a problem with the actual form that was filled out. I'm looking at was given to me by, I'm not gonna go there. I'm looking at a document that was provided to me that told me about the meeting. And again, I'm being very honest here, and I'm going to just say what I have to say. If you look at the three trustees on the document, you'll see Diane Silverdale, you'll see Paula, and you'll see Bobby. Well, I'm pulling all of the legal documents up at the State House and looking for the probate, the document filed in probate, which I couldn't find. Diane made herself a trustee on the property without any, there's an affidavit that she's now the trustee of the property. And again, you have to understand, I've been living there for a long time, so I've heard all kinds of fighting going amongst the family. This is not like it just happened and everything's been peaceful. There's been major bickering. Okay, I think Jackson County knows about it, Auburn Township knows about it. I found about what they were doing to me on Thursday, so I have 4 days. And in 4 days, I discovered, and the lawyers were hired, but I discovered that one of the people made themselves a trustee and has been acting as the trustee of the estate with Geauga County and with Auburn Township. There's affidavits filed, it's what it is. And did this person have the proper right to do all of this, the legal right? They
As
took it
far
wrong.
as we know right now, there are 2 trustees.
Well,
on the family.
no, that's not true, because if you look at your document that you provided to me, this is an Auburn Township document that says Diane is a trustee. I also have a letter from Frank on Auburn Township letterhead that says that Bobby and Paula are the trustees, not you, Diane.
And there's a lot of dynamics that have happened there over the last couple of years, and I think we're all kind of aware of it, but.
But
yes,
it's not my
if you
issue.
look at, go to the Auburn, or the Geauga County website, you look at this piece of property, it is listed under, I believe, Diane as the trustee for the property. Now, and perhaps within the last 6 months, that's been changed. I don't know.
It hasn't. I printed it out the other day, and I have the affidavits for proving that none of the other family members made her the trustee. So we have a legal document telling us about this meeting with somebody who fraudulently made herself the trustee, and that's fraud. Okay, that's what it is, and it's what happened. And now they're impeding this insanity onto my life.
By your own
And that's
admission, ma'am,
ridiculous.
we don't deal with the state problems, we deal with zoning.
But if
We
the house
know,
is in
we
a
know, it's not our problem. We're dealing a zoning issue. I don't care what their estate says. That's for some attorney and some judge to figure out about their estate.
Really?
All they're doing is asking us for a relief for some zoning.
Really?
And that's what we're gonna base our decision on. I'm not gonna look at any laundry behind that.
it's not
So
laundry, it's
anybody
legal
can put their
documents.
name on a piece of property, bring it to you, and you're not even gonna check on it?
Okay,
Is
let
that
me
what you're saying?
comment,
Okay.
because I coordinated all of the paperwork. This was brought to my attention that Geauga Real Link, supposedly, the property is listed under Diane Corn Silvernail.
Yes, it is.
The application has Diane's name on it, which I believe, Annette, you filled this out.
That's correct.
I checked with the prosecutor because the 2 trustees signed the application. Only the 2 trustees signed it, which was Paula Ranville, Robert Silvernail. She said, we can go with it that way until it's proven, and they can amend their application and take Diane's name off of it. It's not that big of a deal. The 2 trustees are asking for this variance based on the address of the property. If there's anything else as far as fraud is considered, we don't, that doesn't involve us.
Not my job.
Our issue right now is just for
75
the
feet.
variance request for road frontage for a residual 60
On my
acre
property.
parcel of property area.
Okay.
If you believe a fraud, or if you believe there are problems dealing with this thing, then I would urge you to
Hand it to your lawyer, the board's lawyer, I did, and she wanted to know what the
hire your own,
families.
hire your own attorney.
Absolutely, oh, if this goes the other way, it's gone.
Because this is a situation, and I agree with Lou.
And then how
We're
are we
here not to
looking
look
on the
at,
township?
we're here not to look at the trust so much as we
No,
are to
them.
look at
If they don't,
whether
they
the
go for
variance
it.
should be approved or not.
Well,
They
when
look
you
like
look at
fools.
these, when we look at the actual administrative rules, because I understand emotion is involved here, and a family trust, and a lot of money, people think they're gonna make millions of dollars off that property selling it to a developer. But, you know, when we look at exactly the reality of what it is, it really is a beautiful piece of property, and Elton and Bobby wanna keep the front. I have emails that say, you know, 2016, they were looking at doing a development, this is really to settle an estate. And again, there's other ways, according to, when you look at the administrative rules, if there are other alternatives, we can look at the other alternatives for changing this. So I will say, again, I'm against it, and I will be hiring lawyers.
Ma'am, like I said, there's 50 different scenarios you could come out of this here. They have selected this. They have every right to ask for this variance, okay? And we're gonna vote on it tonight. I believe we are. And whether you agree with what we say or not, that's your opinion, okay? But you know, they have a right to do these things. And there are systems set up in place and coming before the board, preparing their application as they did, that they have that right. So we're gonna let the system play out. And if for some reason you agree with our decision, you disagree with it, there's, as I mentioned in the opening statement, there are appeals processes here.
I do have a question on you procedurally. If you deny it, how many times can people bring it back, and how often can they bring it back?
We're not gonna go into that tonight, okay?
Well, I had a
We're gonna
4-day
hear it
window
one
on
time.
this, so I
We're
wanna
gonna
make
hear
sure
this
I get
tonight,
these.
and that's it,
So
okay?
they can't come back next month? And the reason I'm asking is because I had 4 days to prepare if I was out of town.
Not for the same request.
They could come back with a different request to remove it
Thank you.
elsewhere.
Sure.
Correct,
Did
Frank?
we
Yeah.
move to the trustees to this
Pardon me?
Did we move this to the trustees?
No.
No.
It's gonna stay before the board. Frank, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Let's go back and answer some questions here.
Sure.
One member of the audience asked, why can't there be shared driveways? Because there is no such thing as shared driveways in Auburn zoning anymore, and the county no longer will accept that, nor is there anything such as a easement allowed anymore. So it used to be you could do that. You cannot do that anymore. So now my hands as zoning inspector of Auburn, or whoever was the zoning inspector, has to take this proposal as permitted, as submitted, and yeah, there's several different options they could go, but this is the one they've chosen, and the only one to make it, the only way they can do it is to give them enough road frontage so when they get to the back, if they want to build multiple homes, they can put a road in. It may never happen, it may happen tomorrow. I have no idea, but as zoning inspector and as this board, this is their request, and I mean, they could do it, they could chop it some other way, but this is what they've chosen to do, and this is what this board is here to hear. And I mean, if you look at the whole packet, there's a statement from the Geauga County Planning Commission that states very simply that this request will require a variance from Auburn. Now, when someone splits a lot in Geauga County, it goes to the township zoning inspector, whoever that person is. That person has to say, yes, it agrees to Auburn zoning in my case, or Newberry zoning in Newberry, or it doesn't. If they split this without the necessary road frontage, I cannot say it meets Auburn zoning, so therefore it won't be allowed to happen. That's plain and simple. I mean, you can, yeah, they could do something like this. They could get very upset here, these two boys, and this whole family could get upset and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a road in here, we're gonna buy this other piece, and we're gonna create 60 homes on a subdivision. I mean, they have that right, it's their property. They have the right to do it however they choose. This is the way they've chosen. Yes, it gives these two gentlemen the right to farm and keep their farm buildings, and the other part of the family to do. This is what they've chosen to do. This board is asked to, they can deny it, they can approve it. It's up to them. But as far as shared driveways or easements, they're not allowed anymore in Geauga County. And back maybe when this was drawn up originally, I don't know, but when Mrs. Silvernell and her husband were thinking about this, we didn't used to have a requirement that you had to have road frontage. We didn't have a requirement. Now we do. And, you know, that's plain and simple, you know, I mean, just had to have access to a road.
When did
Not
that happen?
anymore. It says now you must have road frontage.
When did that happen?
Years ago.
Well, how many years?
I don't know, you have to go back and research.
Before, I mean,
Not
would they be
historic.
grandfathered in? That's my
No.
question again.
No,
Would they be
this is-
grandfathered in with the thing?
No, because the property has
split.
not been split.
Hasn't been split yet.
That lot, to my knowledge, is the same piece of property that was purchased back in the 30s. 1800s or?
It's the same piece of property that since I've lived in Auburn.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's been a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. This is ridiculous.
All right. Any other contiguous property owners? I know, Mr. Bicky, I know you're a property owner that backs up to the back property. You have anything to say?
James Roy Vicky, 17070 Valley Road. I believe that homeowners should, within the realm of the trust deed or the township's rules, be able to do what they want with their property. The only question I would have is, any of the newer houses that would be going in, would they be log cabins?
Because we have a log cabin.
I have another point to make here. I purchased that house 3 or 4 years ago, right? Why didn't they look at getting the house then? They knew they were gonna have 75 feet of frontage then with all of this. Just, you know, honestly, why is it going to impede again? My
You lucked out.
I didn't luck out, not with this. Are you kidding me?
Hey, we got one of the siblings that would like to speak. Go ahead, please.
Mary Ann Hawkins, 14737 Bigelow Road, Burton. And, you know, my mother put in the trust, this is the way it was supposed to be. The brothers are supposed to get the barn and the building and 10 acres of land. My mom never thought she was gonna die, okay? When, honestly, when we brought up anything, including the farm or anything, she would not hear it. She would not. And that was the one that went with her a couple times with the trust to make sure that it was fairly, you know, brought apart. But the barn and the building and the 10 acres was supposed to be for my dad also, to the brothers. And we're fine with that. You know, the house was supposed to be put up and the back acreage for sale, period. When Diane moved out, that's what the trust says, so we're here just saying that.
You just need some access back there.
My mom, you know, we don't know exactly what's gonna happen with this. You know, and I'm sorry, I don't know where you got the idea about, you know, to a development, but
It's in emails to Geauga County. I haven't done the Freedom of Information Act to get all those emails, but I will.
Well, that was never said among the family. I don't know about my brothers, but
I have the
you know.
emails.
It's a big tract of property, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's gonna be, it would be appealing to the right developer. I mean, you gotta be honest about it,
Is there
but
a
you don't know,
soil
maybe not.
report? Do we have one of those in
And
the-
my brothers are looking to get their inheritance as stated in my mom's trust. And we would like to have our inheritance as stated in the mom's trust, which is for the house and the land to be sold. That's our inheritance as the four of us. So
This is what we thought.
it was, right, so it's not, it's just trying to get what
And it's not something we had done overnight. Mom's been passed almost 3 years. It's taken us this long to come up with some type of resolution that makes everybody happy. I mean, you know, it's not the ideal situation, but it is what it is.
Right.
So we just want to do with it. And, you know, we don't want to divide the family, but we want the family to be together. So this is what we're doing to make it work the way Mom wanted
in my dad.
it. And Dad.
Sure.
Don't forget about Dad.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So to summarize, you can't divide up the land at all unless there's roads.
No, they can, Elton and
They can
Bobby.
divide the
They
They
land,
can
they
any
can
way they
divide
want.
it any way they want, as long as it meets zoning
it
requirements.
won't meet zoning, that's the problem.
So you
don't
can't
have
really-
access.
Well, I mean, if you divide the land and you don't have access to it, then what is it?
Landlocked.
Landlocked land.
That's where our issue
They have a right to put a road in there.
They have a right to put a road in to somewhere,
Yeah.
to another road.
Yeah, but not,
Be
you
right
guys
in
have to
the-
grant a
move it
variance
over.
to give them a
They're
road.
down there
They don't have a
tomorrow
right
to put
right
it
now.
in, so that's their business.
Right up the middle, that's what
Right
they
up the
wanna
middle.
do.
Up the middle is
They
not,
don't wanna
We
do that, I
understand,
think
2
that's
feet
their
from
right.
the property.
you can do it, you don't want
I
that.
agree with you.
And we're not gonna argue your trust.
But and let me ask our chief, you know, let's say they were to move that road over 75 feet, out where the barns are, somewhere in there, just hypothetically, it's not gonna change the danger on that corner, is it?
Not really.
I mean, it's
kind
a
of
bad corner
corner.
anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not solving the problem by moving it over 75 feet.
well, you're gonna, but it's impeding on potentially my values. And again, I will get real estate to find out how much, you know, property values
There's
go
already,
down when that
yeah,
happens.
there's already a driveway there.
What?
There's already a
There's a
driveway.
driveway there, there is not a road there, and that's where my issue is. There is not a road. Once there's a variance attached to that property, if I go to sell that house, somebody else buying it, potentially you can have a road right there. Absolutely, right there. And again, I look at it, what are the speed limits on subdivision roads? Is that 25 or 35? I know that road is 45
100
miles.
I witnessed.
I witness it all the time myself. One of these days we'll have a meeting about maybe putting a yellow blinking light or something before somebody gets killed.
Okay.
I believe that there's
It's out of our
many-
control, believe me.
I know, it's really sad.
I'm sure you have one more question
no.
or comment to do.
I did. So right now, the way the property exists, you could put a road in from Valley Road up into the property without a variance.
Oh, absolutely, there's plenty of frontage. But it's, would encroach down to 10 acres that they would like to keep intact.
Well, there's 10 acres can be moved around out of, what, how many acres are there?
The variance is because we don't have the frontage, because it pie shapes.
I believe you need 175 feet.
And it
There's
doesn't meet the requirement.
175 feet there.
Not for two
Not
parts.
too far.
That's why we're here.
Oh, I understand, but if you,
If
okay,
Elton
we're
and
gonna
Bobby
take a
sell, they can put it
hypothetical
there.
situation. You took that 10 acres up front and, you know, the reason why it's appealing, and I know, I looked at it, the reason why it's appealing to these two gentlemen over here, because it has the shop and the barn on it, okay? It only makes sense if you think about it. They're farmers, you know, they need that's their livelihood, okay? I mean, that's where they make their money. I was there when they were working out of it. I mean, it only makes sense if that's how they would like it. That's their business on how they want to subdivide that property.
Absolutely.
But they're coming before us and saying, can you give us a variance here on this
Well,
side?
one of the other requirements for a variance is a soil and water report, so I was wondering if anybody has that, because I didn't see it in the packet that I was given. That's one of the requirements for a variance is soil and
Yes,
water.
we
You
have
guys
that.
have a soil and water report, it was supposed to be given, and I didn't get that. I'd like to see the soil and water report for that area. Because again, we're looking at watershed, we're looking at, Auburn, all of a sudden the road can go in, we're looking at a lot of different things, lots and lots. There's a creek that runs through my property, the minute you build back there, that's going into the new reservoir. Right in. And again, I don't know what, it starts with an R, and I'm sure you guys are very well aware of it, I don't remember what it is, but it's something to do with watershed, and it's a, I think it's a statewide thing, the Riker or the.
Basically, the Department of Health will let them know if the land can support a sewage system, it's buildable. If it cannot, then they will have to go somewhere else and or get an engineer to design a sewage system for the type of soils that they have there that will work.
Yeah, that's soil report.
That's the way it works.
That's the what's it called, the Richter? Do you know what I'm
Keep
talking
talking
about?
about riparian setback.
Period setbacks.
Do you know what it's called? Right.
Riparian.
Yes, I don't know, I didn't understand what that was either.
That's something different, it has nothing to do with sewage.
Right.
Riparian setback is
Riparian is
to repair, or to protect
watershed.
wetlands, watershed.
Yeah, like all the water that's by my property right there, it's all water.
Well,
So that's-
Ladou's flooded farmland anyway, so.
I know that, but is it watershed? I mean, I don't know, it's Akron, so they're the ones that will determine that, not me, but it's another who.
Across the road.
All right, any other comments, questions? Right?
All the contingent property owners here, or somebody representing, I'm trying to follow everybody here that's a contingent property owner here.
Across the street.
Dolls are here, Levinson,
He's not here.
he's not here. Cabot, so those are the ones in both properties. But everybody, well, Illinois.
And then the owners were gonna aren't
They're not here.
And also my ex-husband owns the property too still, Dr. Patrick Wright, so he's not here, but I'm speaking on his behalf also.
You have an affidavit?
Dr. Patrick Wright?
You have an affidavit that you're speaking on his behalf?
No, I don't, but he told me to go
Thank
ahead
you.
and tell him what I thought, because I'm the other property owner. It's all right, I'll get one if you want me to drop one off
Should have brought
tomorrow.
it at the meeting if you're speaking on his behalf, okay?
Property owners. I'll pay for the
All
water.
right. Any other questions from the board? All right. What is this? What is it? Vicky's own a piece of property to the south, don't you?
North and east.
Well, I know that your dwelling's on this piece of property, correct? And then there's a strip in between.
That's-
What is this?
That is our property, it's a buffer to the land.
Okay. Buffer to the land, but it's a separate piece of property.
Yeah, they've never been combined. The two tax forms, I guess.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
How much frontage does that have?
Are you
How much
interested-
road frontage do you have on that second lot?
are you interested in a,
Widening your driveway.
yeah? I do not know at this time.
The driveway check, roadway check.
I would guess.
Okay. Without anything, nobody else has any questions on the board, I'm gonna make a motion on BZA 1804B, an appeal requesting a variance submitted by Diane Lawrence Silverdale, Paul Granville, and Robert Silverdale to the Silverdale Family Trust from the Auburn Township zoning resolution article 4.03K, minimum lot width 175 feet required, 75 feet proposed. Property located at 17254 Valley Road in Auburn Township, Ohio. Is this zip code correct? Okay, 44023, I saw Manaway on that too. So, okay. In an R2 zoning district.
I'll second.
We'll do a vote on Mr. Stewart's motion. Mr. Thompson,
No.
Mr. Parker,
No.
Mr. Gibbons,
No.
Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Motion denied.
Okay, with the motion denied, Jane will be preparing the meeting minutes, They will be approved by the board within 30 days. We will be meeting within 30 days to do that, go over that process. At that point, after 30 days of us approving the meeting minutes, then you can start your appeals process as I kind of outlined in our initial opening statement here.
And that'll be the common police court, I just want to make sure I have this correct.
If you go to our website, you will find our complete zoning resolution in there that will explain the appeals process.
I just didn't know it was common police. Yeah.
Okay, we have a few some administrative items to finish up after our meeting here, so you're welcome to leave or stick around and listen, watch paint dry. All right.
Yeah.